All right, good evening. It is Wednesday night. It's middle of the week. We like to talk about West Ham on Wednesday night. I've got a full crew tonight. Look at this. There's a big crowd tonight. Everybody wearing colors except for Casey. Casey just showed up in like a sweater or something, but that's okay. That's all right. We know who's loyal. We know who
My
prepared.
couch is the
Anyway,
right color.
huh?
My couch is the right color.
That is. You know what? And mine. I used to have a claret couch and then it broke. It was one of those reclining couches, and then it broke because I sat on it too much. So I have a new one now, and the new one is blue. So you know, it works either way. But yeah, so it's American Hammers TV Wednesday night. Glad you're here. There's tons of people like waiting for us in the chat room. So here we are. We're on. Of course, it is 16 de septiembre. That is Mexican Independence Day. So happy Independence Day to all our friends watching in Mexico, if we have any. I hope we do. If you haven't been to our website, check it out, AmericanHammers.net. Check out our shop. All the stuff in there. It's very cool. You can get anything you want, basically, with any logo you want from any of our shows, etc. If you want to be on the show, let us know. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. What else are we on? What's that one that everybody's on that I've never heard of? Well, anyway, can't think of it right now. But anyway, any
Instagram,
social media.
TikTok.
No, not TikTok. It's that one that's like for gamers. And I used to
Oh,
have it on.
Twitch.
Twitch,
Twitch.
No, well, we might be on Twitch.
Discord, one of
Discord,
those.
that's the one. Yes, Discord. Tim does a Discord. So, yes, you can go on Discord and find us somewhere. I was doing that for a while, but I don't know. I never really understood it. So, anyway, check us out if you want to be on the show. If you're a West Ham fan anywhere in the world, let us know. And what's the last one I always say? Oh, yeah, please like and subscribe. Well, you don't have to like. I don't care if you like, but do subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I see Neil. I know Neil subscribed because Neil watches every show we do. So, and it's 10:34 a.m. on Thursday. So Neil is going to tell us what we've said because it's already been Wednesday night there, and he's already watched this show. He's actually like hours into the future. So, um, wait, what do you want to see, Tom? Can I see something in that background? What are you looking for? Tell me. I feel like there's something there. Okay. What, mine? Mine's the same as it always is. It's just my flags and my wife's Celtic cross and I don't know, the Bruins thing and all that. So anyway, you got to let us know, Tom, what you want to see. So Nick is in Columbus, Ohio at the one and only Ohio State University, where they'll be playing American football here in about a month, something like that. So that's exciting. So we get that part of our Saturdays back. Cameron is in Richmond, Virginia. Excuse me. Where he says it's starting to feel like fall, which it is here too in the Boston area a little bit. Casey's in
We don't have any
Chicago.
professional sports teams.
No, I know. But you got to have something. But you got like Richmond Kickers, right?
Yeah, we
Or
got
you
the
have-
kickers, and
Yeah.
they've started games up. I'm not sure if we're allowed in yet, but hopefully that's not in the too distant future.
Yeah, I keep looking to see the MLS is releasing the schedule like bit by bit, sort of, because I want to see if Kansas City's coming, because I want to stalk Winston Reed while he's here. You know what I mean? I want to chase him down, while he's in New England. So that's what I'll be doing while he's here. Casey's in Chicago, and Andrew is. We were just talking about this. Andrew, not only do I have a son named Andrew, okay, I do. My little guy's named Andrew. My wife's cousin has a son named Andrew as well, and they live in very near Shreveport, Louisiana. It just so happens that Andrew is in Shreveport, Louisiana. So go figure. Home of Strawn's. If you're to Shreveport, go to Strawn's. If you want to like take 15, 20 years off your life, cholesterol consumption, check that place out because it's awesome.
World famous
Anyway,
pies.
do what?
World famous pies.
Oh, the world famous pies. Oh, see what you do is you go to Strawn's and you get like the bacon and eggs and pancakes and breakfast food any time of day, and then for dessert you have a pie. Because you know what? Because it's America. It's the South. It's the American South. That's how you live, man. That's how we live.
I mean, can we really call it it's like the Creole South, because it's very different than the rest of like all of the states around it. It's very different.
Here's the thing, though. All right, let me just say this.
We're closer to Dallas.
It's Louisiana, but it's so far north in Louisiana that it's basically far East Texas. But East Texas is very southern. All right. So if you go to Marshall, Texas, you're going to feel much more like you're in Mississippi or Alabama than you will if you drive a few hours to the west and you go to Dallas, which is nothing like the South at all. I don't know. What do you think about that, Andrew? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, being a guy from the New Orleans area, that is completely true. It's super Dallasy over here. Everyone's Cowboys fans, and I can't freaking stand it because who dat nation till I die. So
My wife's people are Saints fans. So yeah. So they're Saints fans and Atlanta Braves. So they hate all things Dallas, basically. So except for me, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so that's all the introductions. The teeth in the iron. What is he talking about? The teeth in the iron sign?
I think he's talking about the background behind us.
Behind us. Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. That's just the Thames Ironworks. That's just a little. That's all that is. That's what it always looks like. So
Sounds like
no. Oh, there are teeth. Oh, I see what he means. Like right here. Oh, he's right. What is that? It's like a picture in the background of the picture.
I think it's a player.
It's a player. Oh, he's
I
right.
see it. Yeah.
No, Tom is totally right. he's noticed it before any of the rest of us did.
I can't see anything.
I think there were a couple players in like a photo in the background before the hammers. I guess it just overlapped.
I don't set these up. They're just done when I get here. So whoever did this, yeah, there are teeth. You're right. That's really funny that I didn't notice that. You did. Anyway, there's a lot we could talk about, as you guys know. We had the pathetic loss to Newcastle, which went pretty much exactly the way I thought it would. Yeah, no, Casey's got notes. He's got notes. Oh, Nick's got notes. Okay. We had the pathetic loss to Newcastle. We had a comfortable win over a League One team in a cup tie against Charlton. Which I know it's just Charlton, but it's just seeing us win. It cheered me up a little bit. But I think the where we have to start, right, is we got to start with his ownership stuff. These rumors are swirling, flying. I don't believe anything until I see somebody holding the shirt.
Yeah.
But if people are naming names, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there on Twitter. It's a good thing I work at home. Nobody from my employer actually sees what I do all day. Because there's a lot of stuff out there on Twitter swirling around. You guys made notes. Why don't you start? I mean, what do you think? Do you believe any of this? Andrew's on. I was going to say we had two Andrews for a minute there. Andrew was beside himself, pretty literally. What do you guys think? Is it happening? Is it real, or is this a smokescreen from Sullivan, or is this stuff that's just recycled rumors from months ago that are kind of picking back up again? What's going on? Anybody? I don't care. Whoever.
I was thinking, I've seen many conflicting stuff on Twitter and stuff. We have X who said there hasn't been any formal bids or whatever, but then there's also people like other accounts like that one secret agent dude. I don't know who that is, but he's saying like, oh, this is for real. West Ham will have new ownership at the end of the year. And I don't know what to believe, but I'm hoping it's not a smoke screen for
X has, and X is not perfect, all right, but he is pretty reliable. He's pretty reliable. To me, he seems not to think that this secret agent guy has much credibility. And I haven't really tracked whether or not the guy's predictions have been correct. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? But X seems to be very skeptical of this guy. So I'm pretty skeptical of him too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that seems kind of conflicting, and I don't know. Have you all been able to, to do a point A to point B thing where you can actually see all these things coming together, in a line so that you get from, Galt, Sullivan, and Brady to somebody else? Because I haven't been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that, though?
Well, Casey, when on TV when they're investigating a murder, you know what I mean, and they've got all these pictures of people and they've got these like lines drawn. That's kind of what I want. It's like there's like Trip Smith over here. There's this a guy who's with the CAA. What is the agency? The big agency that
CAA. Yeah,
CAA,
his name is Richard Lovett.
Right. There's Trip Smith. There's Richard Lovett. There's squishy talk about like Tris Smith has a consortium or Richard Levitt. I don't know where Richard Levitt came from. Is what I'm saying. Like, why are we talking about him?
So
It-
I can break this down a little bit more. All right. So I've spent way too much of my life looking at this. First off, let me explain. Let me start with my least favorite thing that has happened to me in the last week is, so I went on X's Twitter and I said one thing today where I was just like, I don't understand why there are people that follow, because people that follow him on Twitter are very cultish. They're very like, okay, and Lee, I know that you and American Hammers TV have had a relationship with those guys, in the past, with the Vegas
a little,
event and
a little
stuff like
bit, yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
I'm not
tenuous.
beholden to him at all.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean? Yeah,
But I want to go ahead and make that like statement before I start. Like,
of
I'm
course.
definitely not talking shit about him, like at all.
I know
don't
that.
care.
No, that's fine. No,
I know,
I get
but
that.
I
Yeah.
need to state that before I go into this, because I may have people. If you want to talk shit to me on Twitter, you can find me at Casey_more_, and I won't answer you because I'm never really on Twitter.
That's the best way to be on Twitter, is not to be on Twitter.
But I'm going to
Yeah.
start by saying, so this morning I went on there. I went on his Twitter, and I was just like, listen, the dude is right like 9 to 9.5 out of 10 out of the time. And
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And the thing is like the next thing he tweeted at me, and he was like, well, what have I been wrong about? And I was like, dude, I don't really have time to go back through your Twitter and explain to you where you've been wrong or where you've been right. The simple fact of the matter is that within the last 48 hours, he said there's been no bid on the club whatsoever. And on the opposite side, Jacob Steinberg, who is somebody that I have spoken to through Twitter or through the internet more than once, has said there has been 2 bids on the club.
Okay,
Now,
this is what I'm getting at. Please continue. But this is what I meant.
I
Yeah.
was just going to say, like,
Yeah.
X can say whatever he wants, no matter what, because it affects him in no way, shape, or form, especially now that he has this level of credibility. But Jacob Steinberg gets paid for saying things on the internet because he is a journalist that works for a publication, which is The Guardian. The Guardian is also known as probably the best football publication within England, I would argue.
Is that true? Now,
They've won awards. They've won all kinds of stuff.
Because I don't think of the Guardian for sports. I mean, we all know the Guardian has political leanings, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I never think of it as. But it's credible as a sports page?
It's extremely credible within the world. And listen, I've lived in England. I've worked in football in England, and I will say that I would argue that the Guardian, out of all the publications that are mass publications across the UK, so the Daily Mail, the Guardian, the Telegraph, the Mirror, the Sun, I would say that they have won more awards for their football journalism than almost any other publication in the UK. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty damn certain as far as a non-independent publication. And so he is beholden to certain standards when he comes to go and report things on the Guardian. And I will argue we're all American, I believe, here. Mm-hmm. And so we all have consumed, especially my man over there with the New Orleans Saints and the awful Sean Payton and his cheating. But
don't start that now, because you got to get us off into a whole different thing.
But what I'm saying is that we are beholden to a level of journalistic standards for sport that is nothing like the UK. And you can come at me all you want. The UK and sport journalism is really low. It's a very, very tabloid standard. They just make there's places that you could argue can make up things. But anyway,
100% agree. 100% agree. Yep. Have said
Jacob
that for
Steinberg
years.
in the last 48 to 72 hours has said there has been 2 bids on the club, and yet within the last 48 hours, X has said there has been no bids on the club.
Exactly.
So one of those things has to be true.
Correct.
And I trust Jacob Steinberg because he, longer than X, has been reporting on this club and has connections to it. So I have to believe that is true in some way, shape, or form. So one of those two things is incorrect. I'm not lying about that, nor am I looking. I'm just looking between, the whole secret ITK. I agree the Telegraph and the Times are also great. Again, you can go back to their political leanings, and then it goes back to a whole other thing that people can argue about.
Sure.
But there has to be something. There has to be some nugget of truth there. And I will say that this weird ITK secret agent bullshit that came out of left field, that has connections with Spencer FC. I've spoken to Spencer. In the past, I've almost done work with him in different through some stuff with Panini back in the day. I know his brother. I've had conversations with his brother. They're real deep West Ham United fans. They have connections with the club. So something has to be true. And that was my thing. So when someone comes at me and says, well, where have I been wrong? And then I say that and I don't hear anything back from him, and I may be banned by him tomorrow. I have no idea. It's just there's something there that is not doesn't make sense.
But he's I mean, when you read what he says, right? He says that there have been discussions. He says that there is my impression is he's saying there's like a vetting process that's going on to make sure the people, the American consortium that's interested actually has the money.
Has the money, yeah.
Right. So, and that makes sense. But he's also very specifically said there has been no bid. He said that multiple times. I mean, in those words. Whereas Jacob Steinberg, and this is what I want to know from you, though, Casey. So Jacob Steinberg, do we trust him? Because as you said, I don't trust most of the British sports press or the English sports press, let's say.
I trust Jacob, and there are three people in this realm that I think are, well, there's actually four, but the fourth one I'm not going to remember his name. The three people that I actually trust with information on this club are X. So I am going on the record saying I do trust him and I do read his shit, even though I think there are a lot of issues that I have with him. Some that are unfortunate.
He loves him. That's the only thing I'll say.
If I have to see another emoji with large eyes or clapping, I'm literally going to just scream.
They say it ain't bragging if you can do it, but you don't have to. But you don't have to brag.
Oh no, it's still bragging.
That right, exactly. I mean, you don't have to brag. You know what I mean?
It's like James Harden doesn't go to the strip club and throw out money, and he's like, "Man, I'm so good at throwing out money." But
right, exactly.
So there's X, who I trust more than anybody else for inside things for the club. Yeah. I do want to go back for 2 seconds because we're 17 minutes in. I feel like I've been talking for way too long, but
it's okay.
But the thing is like people are like, oh my God, X knows what our starting lineup's gonna be. It's like, yeah, dude, he's like talking about our starting lineup an hour before time. What the hell is the difference between us knowing an hour before time and like or 2 hours before the game and an hour before the game? There's no difference.
It could be 3 minutes before the game. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, when I turn the game on, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it does prove that he has connections with the club. That's great.
Right, but I mean, so
exactly.
What am I going to do? Call David Moyes and say, "Oh no, don't start Noble today." You know.
Exactly. So there's him. There is Jacob Steinberg, who has been around the club. And unfortunately has had in the last year, and I think some of this is tied to the cult of X, because I think there is a cultish level of followership around it. But I think that just comes from, and I won't get political, but it does come from the far left, far right, and cultish nature of the platform of Twitter. And just to back up my qualifications, I've worked in social media for 10 years. I think there is a political cult following no matter what you're doing on Twitter. I think it just comes with the territory. I think there's Jacob Steinberg at The Guardian. I think that there's Sam Inkersole, who's done a good job.
We've had Sam on the show. Yeah, he's good.
A younger journalist, a younger reporter with a publication with London Football or Football London.
London, yeah.
That is much smaller and is not a highly regarded publication like the Telegraph or anything else. Right. And then there's somebody else that I can't think of. He's the editor of the Evening Standard that has helped bring in Mark Noble to do his Friday piece every week. I can't remember his name, but he also has a lot of connections to the club. There are four people that I truly trust to have connections with the club. And the simple fact of the matter is that Jacob Steinberg reported on this. And when you're at that level, the Guardian Football Podcast is probably the most respected podcast in mainstream football in the entirety of the UK. You're putting your reputation on the line every time you do things, and the more that you're wrong,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely. Listen, I know I mention this every time we have a show. Okay, so sorry. But I used to be a journalist, not a sports journalist. I worked in the technology industry. But yeah, all you have as a journalist is credibility. You don't have anything else. Once you lose credibility, then you have to go off and be somebody who's a loudmouth and offers takes. Do you know what I mean? You can't be a reporter anymore. You have to be a commenter. Because once you lose credibility, you have to go off to whichever side you want to support, right wing, left wing, whatever, and then just spout crap, So all you have if you want to be a journalist is credibility. So yeah, I agree with you. If Jacob Steinberg is putting his name out there, which X doesn't do, we understand why, then I as a former journalist, I am more inclined to believe Jacob Steinberg as well. And listen, Tom, he told us this. Sam told us this. Sam told us that. I mean, Sam is a reporter. He told us that he doesn't have the connections that X has. You watch the episode with him. He talks all about how he does it. The reason I like Sam Ingersoll is because he confirms things before he reports them. He gets 3 sources. He does what a journalist is supposed to do, and that's very rare in the UK sports press. Anyway, that's a little aside, but because I'm a little defensive of Sam because he gets attacked a lot on Twitter, and I think he does a good job. Anyway, so this is all good stuff in terms of what do we believe?
Going to really quickly, going to
Go ahead.
going to Foshizi's point about kind of like the process of like how things get filed and everything. In my job, I do commercial real estate research. Partly, my company has offices in London and everything, so every once in a while, I dabble in markets over there and everything. Companies House is a resource that I use all of the time, and I may or may not be searching like all of the names that kind of come up as like part of the consortium and everything, just to see what they own in London or in
Really?
the UK and everything, and just seeing if anything new pops up, because you can set alerts for that. So
that's awesome. That's so funny. I love that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not even sure how to continue with this discussion because we don't really know. We don't really know what's going on. I think. Does anybody think that there is really nothing happening here? That this is either a smokescreen from Sullivan, or that these are just, that there's a misunderstanding, or these are rumors that are getting recirculated, or that the whole deal is dead? Does anybody think there's I don't know.
I think there's some truth to it. I mean, X said there could possibly be like interest, and I haven't read like what that Jacob guy said about like bids being submitted, but I think I do recall X tweeting how there wasn't like a formal bid. Like
that's what he said, yeah.
Which is like, I don't know if that's different from that Jacob guy saying, "Oh, there has been a bid from the club," because you could be discussing a bid over emails, like a price range, whatever it is. So I don't know if that's like in between and stuff. I think there's some truth to it.
Well, didn't X say that there's like they're offering shares of the club or something like worth 10% of the club for additional investment and everything? So, I mean, if they're offering that much, they're definitely kind of seeing what's out there, because you don't put up 10% of the club unless A, you absolutely have to, which I mean, we're skint, so we might have to. And B, if you're starting to look at, oh, hey, who has the money to buy?
There's a few things people have said. So, I mean, there's so many different aspects to this. One, what people have said in the business is that clubs get offers all the time.
By the way, just a second, Casey. Sorry, John, you're killing our whole model of the show here. So don't say stuff like this, okay? All we do is come out here and speculate. You should know better. You've been on this for a long time. Anyway, go ahead.
I completely agree. I mean, the vast majority of what anyone does at this point is, I mean, Stephen A. Smith has made an entire career of just talking about things that don't really matter.
Every pundit on television has done that. I mean,
I can start yelling at all of you, like if it helps.
It wouldn't hurt, probably. Yeah, you could pull a Stephen A. The guy gets attention, or I could be like Skip Bayless and just say something totally asinine. But
my sources have told me, Lee, that we are going into this, and we will be sold.
This is okay. This is a little bit what I worry about. Now, you brought up a good point, I think, Nick, because what do we hear all the time when there's a rumor about a player being sold, including Declan Rice right now? We read all over the English press. Chelsea's going to bid for Declan Rice, or last season it was Manchester United are going to bid for Issa Diop, and there've been a bunch of others. And then X comes along and says there've been no bids. There've been no bids, and I think what he means is there's not been a formal, piece of paper laid on a table, right? As opposed to somebody in the boardroom at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge saying, how much would you pay for Declan Rice? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a difference between people talking about it and somebody coming out and doing it. And I'm wondering if there's any way to square what Jacob Steinberg is saying with what X is saying, it's that X is using a different definition of the word bid.
I also feel like they're both in the middle of there's interest. Like someone is showing interest.
I think there is interest, yeah.
I mean, I think it's hard to say. I mean, at the end of the day, like the difference is from what I understand, and like going back and looking at some of the stuff, the things that people have said. X has said in the last 2 months that there have been Americans, Qataris, and Saudis that have talked about bidding on the club.
Yeah.
Then you have the random secret agent person saying, okay, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to hear about in the news, Americans bidding on the club. Within the next 2 weeks, Jacob Steinberg has come out and said, we had a bid on the club, a formal bid, which means that someone has come and said, hey.
And there was £400 million was the number attached to it.
350. Yeah. And then there was another story that came out 2 days later where Jacob Steinberg was like, there has been a second bid of 400. And then they are looking for a third bid. Now, if you read, listen, I've looked at way too much shit between KUMB and all this stuff because I'm working from home and constantly reading shit on social media because that's my job, where I'm probably going insane. But and Thomas, the Guardian doesn't make stuff up. I don't think really and truly, if you look at how like transfer news comes about, no one really makes stuff up. The difference is that you're having agents call people and tell people things that happen. Yeah. And they are just reporting what someone has told them. And agents can say whatever they want to drum up interest.
I think sometimes they make it up, though. I'm sorry, I do. I think they come. Let's put it this way, Casey. They come to desperate conclusions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. An agent calls and says something like, hey, Chelsea's looking for a central defensive midfielder. And the reporter says, oh, that sounds to me like you said Chelsea's going to bid £75 million on Declan Rice. You know what I mean? Yeah. They really stretch what they have to work with.
But I just want to say, like, I think that now if you look at the ITK _ secret agent, whatever the hell, and I don't trust anything. I take it all with a grain of salt. I'm excited, but I take it all with a grain of salt.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
Today, he literally said, expect a new bid, expect Americans to bid a third time. There are 2 Chinese people looking, expect it to be done in the next couple weeks, so forth and so on, or expect it to be done by the end of the year. And it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to think.
Yeah.
And
it's a major deal. It's not going to happen by the Arsenal game.
No, but
we're not going to sign Messi and Ronaldo by the time we play Wolves. It's not going to be like that.
And I mean,
can I settle for Rico Henry?
No.
If we get bought out, yes, but not with David Sullivan in charge. No, you're going to get some lone player from from Moldova.
And his injury problems worry me. So like I could talk about this for weeks. Right. I mean, we'll get to it, but we can talk about what happened in the Charlton game, and there's some things I want to point out at some point later. But this whole thing is crazy. I mean, the guy from CAA, if he was to own us, at one point he was the most if he may still be the most important agent in all of Hollywood. And that gives us access to so many avenues.
Yeah.
He became the
we're talking Green Street Hooligans 2 with Elijah Wood back in the fold.
I just want to point out that there are 3 of those movies.
There are. I don't acknowledge the other 2 because there's no Elijah Wood in there. He's not in them, is he?
I don't think so.
No, it's a bunch of It's a bunch of spares.
I haven't actually. I don't know if I've seen all of them.
No, it's going to be like the Cobra Kai Green Street Hooligans. It's going to be like he's grown up now. You know what I mean?
And
Bover is grown up.
But he became the president of CAA, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, Creative Artist Agency is probably the most important agency, entertainment and also sports agency in the entire world. And he became the president of that at 41 years old in 1995. So you're talking about one of the most important people in all of Hollywood, in the history of Hollywood. So, if he is to have an ownership group, there are very few people that would be more important than him to own us. And I don't know if that's actually true. I mean,
but this thing is, I don't know where this stuff is coming from. Let me, Andrew. No idea. I want to ask you something, Andrew, too, while you're down there.
Sure.
Don't say much, but I know you and I have got to agree on this, right? I realize this is an extremely long shot because the man probably has never seen a non-American football game in his life. But I have seen the name Jerry Jones bandied about. That is a major problem for me. That is a major problem for me. I will not support, buy merchandise from, etc. I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan, right? After Jimmy won 2 consecutive Super Bowls, Jimmy Johnson, I said, dude, I'm done with this guy. And they won another one after that. But I said, I'm done with this guy. He's going to destroy this franchise. He's made it valuable, but he's destroyed it competitively. Andrew.
Sure.
I mean, this can't happen, right?
So the reason why I kind of been quiet during this entire time is because I'm going to go with John here in the comments. I'm really not interested in any of the labor pains. I want to see the baby. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
You're not a dad, are you? Are you an actual dad?
No. Don't put that on me. Don't put that evil on me.
If you're ever married and you say that to your wife while she's pregnant.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. I think y'all are wishing some things upon me.
That's going to be a problem for you.
Right. No. But so the problem with us right now is someone like Sullivan is super heavy-handed on the club, but has not given us any type of infrastructure to succeed. And that's the problem with the Cowboys is that Jerry, he's super heavy-handed on everything with that club. And what does he do? Just buy super sexy names and they don't perform. And that's our problem now. We'd be doing a step side and have to be very careful and we have to vet as to who we are going to be, replacing. I mean, us as a club can't do that per se, but
to be fair, the Cowboys training ground is great.
Yeah. Oh, I've been. It's beautiful.
It's better. It's better than but I got a shed in my backyard that's better than Chadwell Heath. I mean, honestly, my garage outside probably more spacious and has better, has better facilities. But we have a set of weights that the previous owner left for us. Probably nicer than anything that they've got at West Ham. But he's Sullivan. He's just he's Sullivan with a much more annoying accent, really. Is what he is.
Arguably bigger ego.
Oh, a colossal ego. That's why I fired Jimmy.
And I'm a little hesitant about having people that are involved in NFL franchises come do stuff in the Premier League because it's very different. You look at Kroenke with Arsenal. He is so far attached, and they do nothing but bitch about Kroenke all the time. We got to be careful what we wish for. Yeah,
but they also win trophies, and he may not invest money into it, but they're still such a I don't know, man. There's infrastructure there, even though that things have been really weird there, and I really can't speak on it because of the administrative issues they've had in the last 6 months. But just going from an American sports view, I don't want Jerry Jones, James Dolan, Dan Schneider anywhere near West Ham United, and I would literally take what we have now over those 3.
That's the thing is I would too. People don't understand that, but I would too.
And then 4th, I wouldn't want Sean Payton to own any part of my club because I don't want him to pay to have people break other people's ankles.
Did nothing wrong. Brett Favre deserved it. So did Kurt Warner.
Brett Favre did deserve it. Whatever happened, I don't really care what it was. Brett Favre deserved it.
Just wash my hands of that whole thing.
Brett Favre deserved it. Period. Brett Favre deserves whatever's coming to him.
I was kidding.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and the other thing that I want to go ahead and state for the record, not that this is the actual record, not that anyone really cares. The Cowboys are not. Yes, they're commercially successful. That's great.
Other than that, not successful at all. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and win. Let me give you a trophy for being top of the Forbes list. That's amazing. But I do want to say that, like, and I think that we should all kind of state this. Everyone should know that the grass is always greener. We have no idea who is going to own this club.
That's true.
But at the same time, we have no clue who could possibly buy it.
Right.
And we also have no leverage of who will actually own it. And we also need to take in view that there is anybody that's going to buy us is probably a bad human being.
Well, because most billionaires are, right?
Let's be honest. Most. Every single one of them, because you don't make $1 billion or you can't afford something that's $300 million on your own and or with a consortium without at least one person being awful. So I do understand that. But I also understand, and this is not a blanket statement against anyone from certain countries, but I do not feel comfortable. So the Newcastle possible buyout, I don't feel comfortable being owned by the Saudis and the Public Investment Fund. And
I said that before, and I agree with you. I don't either.
And I can't explain for a lot of reasons why I feel that way, because it would get too political. I don't feel comfortable being owned by a Qatari investment fund, and I can explain that, but I don't want to get into it. I don't necessarily feel comfortable being owned by a Chinese consortium or a Chinese investment, and there are a few reasons why. One, I could point to Golden Sullivan selling Birmingham City to Carson Young, who was I don't necessarily know if he was convicted at the point, but he is now convicted of a lot of issues in China, and it left the club in a very bad.
Well, it's hard not to be convicted of something in China, though, to be fair. I mean,
completely fair, but at the same time, I just don't feel comfortable, and it worries me. With at least American investment, I think there is a transparency there to where we can actually look at where the money is coming from, the money is going. And that's the only, and it could be my American bias. I completely.
No, I'm with you 100% on this, Casey. I've said this before, and I feel the same way. And it's too much to get into for the nature of the show we do, but I feel the same way. I do. I realize American billionaires have faults, are far from perfect. I still would rather I don't know, deal with them or be in a fan relationship with them than be in one with frankly most oil billionaires around the world, and particularly in some place like Saudi Arabia, quite frankly, just given the geopolitical sort of nature of how things happen. All right, so I don't know, maybe we should flip and talk about the team a little bit. Somebody was broadcasting the Charlton match on Twitter in like Super Mario Brothers quality, pixelated form. So I did watch the second half, and no, I didn't see the first half. I saw the second half, and I thought it was, a comfortable performance. Everything looked as it should against a League One team, which for us is not, not what you'd expect. You expect us to go out there and lose like we did to Oxford. So I know that maybe you guys didn't get to see much of that game. Cullen played really well. I thought Lanzini played well. Allaire scored twice. Ben Johnson looked really good. Based on Newcastle and then what we learned from Charlton, what changes are you guys making to the team, if any, for Arsenal on Saturday? Andrew, I'll let you start because we can go around the counterclockwise here. Anything you've seen, read, noticed that make you think, we got to get we got to start Allaire up top, start Yarmolenko, whoever you think.
Sure. So when you look at their front three at Arsenal, you have Willian, you have Aubameyang and Lacazette up there. Minus Lacazette, that's a lot of pace going on over there. So we're definitely going to have to think about combating that in some way. So quite frankly, I would I think that we're gonna have somebody like not Bowen, Yarmolenko in. He's just such a maestro on the pitch. I know he's not super fast, and but having somebody like Johnson or Frederick behind him does not scare me as much because of their pace. I like the way he facilitates and all that good stuff. But what does that mean for Bowen? For me, that means that Bowen, he's a slashing player. Last time I was on, I talked about how he made an impact the second half because, I mean, if you run their wing back ragged, or I don't know if they're running three in the back or not. If you run them ragged, you have somebody like Bowen coming after them, being able to zip and zoom around. That's going to be dangerous. Also, I would probably put Allaire up top for hold up play and be able to have a more aerial threat. I take back everything I said last time a couple months ago where I said Antonio's great value at Adama Traore. I think towards the end of the season, his hold-up play was awesome. I think his vision on passes were great and his finishing greatly improved. Considering what we saw before was him hitting it to the moon every time.
Absolutely, yep.
However, we're asking that from somebody that's not their game. That is Allaire's game. And I do feel like a lot of hold up play from Allaire and Maestro stuff from Yarmolenko will be really crucial. And a late game press from Antonio and Bowen would be a good way to threaten them in the second half if we can keep it 0-0 by the half.
So who would you
change?
So you have where do you have Yarmolenko play?
Right wing.
Right wing. Okay. And who do you have in left? Anderson?
Okay, I was hoping we didn't have to talk about this
because he I don't like him because I felt as though last season he was done with us, and then now it's hard to say. Like, he actually was a little bit lively against Charlton. It's hard not to be lively against a League One team, let's be honest. But he put in effort, and I mean, if he puts in effort, he's still a very good 40+ million pound player.
Exactly.
We should have on the pitch, but I can't decide whether this guy's in for committed to us or not.
So I think he kind of fell from form after his injury last year. I think that's kind of when we saw that, and then I think family things were happening during COVID, and it kind of really threw him off emotionally. He did look like somebody shot his puppy. Like, whenever time he come on the pitch, he just looked sad and like depressed. He just loaf around and flip flops.
Yeah.
But I will tell you right now that whenever FIFA 21 comes out, so many of you people are going to have Anderson as your left wing. He's so talented. If we can get him motivated and playing, he's going to be one of the most dangerous left wings in the league. And I think we need to start pushing.
Well, he used to be. He was a couple of seasons ago.
That player is still in there. Just got to figure out a way to get it out. And I think by playing him,
so would you play Allaire up top by himself?
I would, but I would have the wingers cutting in on him. Of course, Yarmolenko is going to cut in because he's one trick pony with the left foot, and then you have Anderson cutting on the right. And then whoever you have at the number 10 kind of floating around to get those long balls down to.
What about Yarmolenko up top with him? I've always thought Yarmolenko should play up top with him.
Yeah,
he's a striker. He's a striker. It's what he does.
Right. He does do that for Sweden.
Or were Ukraine, but yeah, they look the same.
I'm sorry, did I say blue and yellow? Blue and yellow.
It doesn't matter. Quite beautiful uniform. They have the UCLA thing going on. It's very nice.
Right. No,
it looks really good.
I like him cutting in on his left. And being able to kind of have a free roll on coming in from the left. I mean, from the right. So I would keep him on the right, and then probably Fornals in the hole. And then if he's off the pace, then you have ample options. I think any of them will do.
That's good. That seems fair. I think my big concern with Allaire is that I just feel as though we are trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with playing him by himself up top. I think if he's going to be on his own, Andrew, as you said, you got to have the wingers going forward and supporting him. You know what I mean? Which is going to put a lot of pressure on our weakest positions. Although Ben Johnson, if we'll start Ben Johnson over Fredericks, I have a lot more confidence in him. But if it's a lot of pressure on our weaker positions because our fullbacks are our weakest spot. All right, I'm going to go up and around, and we'll come back to you, Cameron and Casey in a minute. Nick, what do you think?
I was just thinking, I think because of how bad Cresswell performed against Newcastle, it can't get any worse if we put Masuaku in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a League One side, but Masuaku tore up the field, and Anderson looked more confident, just like with him coming up. So I think Masuaku should start. I don't think Allaire should be dropped, but I have to ask myself the question, does that mean Antonio gets dropped or Antonio gets played up with him? or does Antonio get moved to the wing? If so, like who gets dropped then? I just feel like I think the only thing for certain is Ogbonna at center back, Rice and Suchek in the middle, and then I feel like Bowen will get the start, either Yarmolenko. The hard part is I feel like we have a lot of options right now because Anderson looked a lot better than what he did at the end of last season, last night against Charlton. Probably because of Masuaku.
Yeah, he's confident because he doesn't have the liability of Cresswell behind it. Yeah,
he got service and he scored goals. I think he'll do that against other teams. I don't care about who plays right back. I thought Fredericks did decent against Newcastle. I would be fine if he stayed there, but Johnson's still a good choice. I just don't know. Also, if we're going to keep Noble in the team.
I was just going to ask that. He loves a London derby. We know that. But Mark Noble is, he's 75 years old and he's slow. And he's Mr. West Ham, but we know he's losing his skills. All right, he is. We realize this. I think we have to have our most athletically, able players on the pitch.
I was thinking. I don't know if Moyes is gonna put Lanzini in for him, just to get that attacking aspect. If he's gonna move Fornals inside, or if he's. I think Cullen should get some minutes against Arsenal.
Moyes is never going to do that, though. He won't do that. I wish he would, but I don't think he will. I'll bet Moyes puts Noble on the pitch. I'd almost put money on it. I really would.
He's just too slow. If Noble's playing the 10, we have the slowest guy in the field pressuring the ball.
Right.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. Cameron, what do you think? Casey, I'm coming to you. Don't worry. I know you got notes on this. I'm coming to you. Cameron. I'm going to I'm going to say what all the teachers said to my kid this morning. Take yourself off of mute. There you go.
My bad.
It's okay.
As far as the left side of the field, I 100% believe that Anderson, Masuaku have better synergy and better teamwork and play better together, both offensively and defensively, than Cresswell and Fornals ever will. Love Fornals. I don't think he's a left winger. He's not. I think
he's not
him and Lanzini need to be fighting
he's a 10.
week in.
He's a 10.
Him and Lanzini need to be fighting every single week for that number 10 spot, and it'll push both of them to be better players, and it's going to give us options there. I personally like kind of two up top with Eller and Yarmolenko. Personally, I would at some point, maybe not this game, but at some point, like to see Big Bastard FC up front and have Aller, Yarmolenko, and Antonio on the right wing.
I would love that. I would
just run them ragged for the first 60 minutes and then throw on Bowen and
See, I love that idea. Moyes will set up defensively because it's a top 6 caliber team. I don't know if they're actually going to be top 6 again this season. I probably won't, but they're a big club, big names. They're in form. I would love to see that, man. I'd just go for it. Just go for it. Just balls out. Because we get
Antonio,
we get talked.
Antonio, not the best shot taker, but he's proven in again and again, he can always cut inside and kick it back and get it to somebody. He can head the ball. He can take it down the wing with pace. He's tricky on his feet. Put Haller inside where he can cut onto his left, and he's a one-trick pony, but I've said it on their show again and again and again. He's really freaking good at that trick.
If you set him up properly, then it's a great trick to have. Yeah. I think the guy could be a 20 goal scorer for us. I know that's crazy because we haven't had anybody do that probably since DiCanio, but I'm with you on that. I feel the same way. I just, I fear we're going to do what we always do, which is isolate him up top, set up defensively, have Noble in the middle of the pitch, and just have no pace,
And the other thing for the midfield is, again, maybe not necessarily this game, but something I would love to see us try at some point is having Suchek in the 10 role and having Rice and Cullen behind him.
Because Suchek is not necessarily a defensive midfielder the way everybody says he is. He can be an attacking midfielder. He can be a 10, I think,
How
potentially.
many goals did he score after the restart and was just putting in headers like crazy and just like getting in everybody's face and just
goals and
kicking
assists?
ass?
He is. I mean, honestly, after Antonio, he was our best player after the restart, I thought.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought he was fantastic. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Cameron.
I was going to say, he came close against Newcastle. I know a couple times.
He did. And not for the first time, too. He came close in a few other games at the end of the season after the restart, but he came close against Newcastle. A player we're probably not using as effectively as we could, but then that's not unusual. This is
fantastic box guy.
This is true. He is. He's a box-to-box midfielder. That's what he is. I mean,
we've been needing that.
Like that's why against Watford, our second goal, like in that big 3-1 win, they like show him like he told Noble to like stay back. No one tracked him in. Like Bowen looked his head up and then boom, there it was. Like that's a big body coming in the air.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I don't think we're pushing him up enough. All right, Casey. I know you got a full page of notes, so go for it. What do you got?
So I doubt you remember this, but I've been on my soapbox for a very long time that our biggest issue is that we play with a traditional, we believe we play with a traditional number 9, which is a tall, lanky, English-style striker. The biggest issue is that for the last half decade, close to a decade, we played with inverted wingers, except for when we had I can't remember his name. He played for Wolves, and then he came to Matt Jarvis.
We've had him on the show.
We bought Matt Jarvis under Big Sam because he had the most crosses of any human being in the history of football. Yet they weren't accurate, and then we had.
You're nitpicking at details, Casey. Come on.
but for the last 5 to 6 years, we've literally had inverted wingers. I can go back and forth all the time. Right now, we have inverted wingers in Bowen, Yarmolenko, and Anderson. They are all players that are dominant footed on the opposite side of what they play, which means they tend to cut inside. Which really only benefits you when you play with wing backs, people that can, if you play 3 at the back and then 2 dominant attacking dominant players that don't necessarily have to run the channels, that can stick to the lines and then have your actual wingers be on the channel,
which we don't do.
No, and it sucks. And you can see this by the last 5 years. We have had Antonio be in the top 10 of most headed goals, which is weird because in the last 5 years he's played everything from right wing back to right winger to striker. So that's my soapbox. That's my weird little thing that I think makes no fucking sense, and I have no idea why we keep doing it. And if you look at the game against Charlton, there was one thing that was glaring. Yarmolenko played on the right wing and is a left-footed player. And the first goal came from Cullen putting the ball in the box, and he was already in the box on the left side and passed it with, I think, his left foot in front of across the goal, and Heller scored it. The only player that's actually sent a ball in, other than Diangana, in the last couple games, preseason or otherwise, that actually crossed the ball into the box is one of our best crossers of the ball, which is Snodgrass. And that's how we scored our second goal of the Charlton game. So I honestly believe that we should put Snodgrass on maybe the left or right wing. But I also believe that Bowen should be a part of this. So I'm not really sure how all this works out. I'm an armchair analyst. If I was really going to say that this is going to work out, I would play 3 at the back. I'd play Balbuena in the center. I'd play Diop on the right and Ogbonna on the left. If I had to play it another way, because I think Ogbonna is the best center back with the ball at his feet, I'd play him in the center and Valbuena on the left. I don't think any of this works because I think our team is makes no fucking sense on paper or otherwise. But in reality, we have to figure out how to play either 3 at the back with 2 wingbacks and have our wingbacks be either Fredericks, who can't cross the ball for shit, even though he's fast as hell. And I don't know what Ben Johnson can do. I think that apparently he performed really well in the Charlton game, so maybe
he was really good. From what I saw, he was really good. And there's a couple of clips of him doing some really impressive things.
Oh yeah, he had some pretty decent techers and kind of like a little clip around and.
Yeah, his little run to the end line there, where he tapped the ball back in and got it to who missed the shot on that? Was it Allaire?
Allaire, yeah.
Allaire.
Yeah, it was Allaire who put it wide. I mean, you really had to just tap it in. But anyway, yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a Premier League team put in fewer crosses and even fewer successful crosses than we do. It's astonishing. I watch any other type of game you want.
We put in a lot of crosses with no one in the box, and it makes
that's another problem is you got nobody making a run. Do you know what I mean?
Well, no, it's not that. It's that we have players that don't have the attacking intelligence to run into the box. Like if you look at when we get the ball and we take it out to either side of the box, it's because whoever's leading our forward line takes the ball either from the center over to the left or right, mainly because the person who gets the ball is Antonio, and his natural position is on the left or right. And then he gets there, and he's faster than everyone else, and there's no one in the box. So I don't know what the answer to that is. But then again, it's not my fucking job to know what the answer to that is.
I just listen. I watch. We watch every other level of football you can talk about. You watch other Premier League matches, other matches in Europe. Watch the Canadian Premier League on Fox Sports 2, whatever. And you're seeing just cross after cross, and I feel as though we don't successfully do that. And I think you're right, Casey. It's because we don't go wide very often. We tend to come through the middle, and then we try to go wide once we're in sort of the final third, and it's much harder to do it that way. We haven't for a long time had a winger who could consistently put in proper crosses. I think maybe, I think Snodgrass maybe the one we have who's best at that. He's also good at set pieces, and he's good at corners. But he's slow, and he's got his liabilities, right? He might not give you 90 minutes either. So, I don't know what to do about that either. I kind of feel the same way you do. I don't have any, I don't have my UEFA coaching badges, so I can't solve that one. Well, let me ask you this, all you guys. So, what do you see happening on Saturday? How do you think Moyes will line up? Who do you think he's going to have up top? Who do you think he's going to have on the wing? Is he going to start Johnson, or is he going to start Fredericks, Masuaku, or Cresswell at the back? Where do we see Antonio, Bowen, Suchek? Tell me what you think is where we're going to, and then give me an idea of what do we need to do to beat this Arsenal team, which I think will be very difficult to do because they look in form. They have a lot of pace. We'll start. I'll tell you what. We'll go the reverse order this time. We'll start with you. You go ahead and keep going, Casey. What's your take for what you think Moyes is actually going to do? And then, what do we need?
Well, Lee, my sources have told me.
Stephen A. Tell us.
No, I believe that my man LeBron has told me that
it's the way the dude talks about it as if it is absolute life and death. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing more important on earth than what he's speaking about right at that moment. Is he like the son of a pastor or something? He's got to be.
No, he is an old school Philadelphia Inquirer reporter, and I think that nothing means more to him than his damn paycheck. So.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him for that.
And he's making bang.
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course, all those dudes do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if y'all know this, and this is a little aside, but Skip, his brother is like a really famous chef.
I did not know.
Oh yeah, Rick Bayless. Yeah.
So Rick Bayless is a big chef here in Chicago,
Oh yeah.
And like I tell people all the time, he has like 6 or 7 restaurants here in Chicago, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, I literally hate him as a person. And they're like, why? How can you hate Rick Bayless? And I was like, because his brother Skip is the worst human being
Because I hate Skip Bayless.
when it comes to sports on the planet.
And I have hated Skip Bayless. By the way, I grew up with Skip Bayless as a columnist for the Dallas Times Herald.
Oh yeah, you would have.
Right?
Yeah, you
Yes.
would have.
So we were a morning news family for a long time. There were 2 newspapers in Dallas until the late 80s. We were a morning news family, but my dad got mad about something in the morning news and he canceled his subscription. We took the Times Herald for a few years. And so we had Skip Bayless, and the guy he's just disgusting. And I think he does it intentionally, you know.
Oh, 100%.
He's horrible. He was horrible then. He's horrible now. Fortunately, my dad made peace with the morning news. We started taking it again. Then the Dallas Times Herald folded. He started writing for the morning. Skip Bayless started writing for the morning news. It didn't matter. Wherever I went, he followed me. So anyway,
If you ever want to see the greatest thing ever about Skip Bayless, just Google Skip Bayless, Mark Cuban basketball. And it's just funny as hell to watch an owner of a basketball team just rip the shit out of Skip Bayless.
And I'm a huge fan of Mark Cuban, by the way.
I'm not a big fan of ultra wealthy people, but
I'm not either. But as far as that goes,
anyway,
as far as sports owners go, listen, I remember the Mavericks before he got there. I mean, the fact that he got to an NBA title that's incredible, you know. Anyway.
But anyway, so let's go to this weekend. Arsenal, I think will line up pretty much the same. I think there'll be minor tweaks. I think the back four may include Ben Johnson. To Kieran's point, I just don't understand. If Moyes looks at our back four and says, okay, Aubameyang is going to play. He just signed a 3-year contract, and he will do a good job against Fredericks will do a good job against Aubameyang. Then he is literally smoking salvia.
I don't know what that is, so it must be good.
It's not. It's a weird weed substitute that was sold at head shops in the mid 2000s that made people crazy. But
it sounds like a sweetener, like an artificial sweetener. I'm putting a little salvia in that tonight. That'll sweeten it up a little bit.
It's an artificial sweetener of your life. Like Miley Cyrus that was the first thing that Miley Cyrus got caught on when she hit salvia, and everybody was like, "Oh my god!"
Did you know "Achy Breaky Heart" was not a Billy Ray Cyrus original song?
I believe so. I'm
sure about this. There was another group, and they were called the Marcy Brothers or something like that. They wrote and recorded that song first.
The funny thing is that Miley Cyrus isn't a Billy Ray Cyrus hit. It was actually a UPS man hit. Smacked his wife and came out with her.
But, oh, come on now. Billy Ray is an American treasure. Billy Ray is an American treasure. He's what made this country.
I mean, if that's an American treasure and that's what we call treasure in this United States of America, I do believe that we are in this situation because of things like that. But anyway, I don't know, man. I think we'll lose, but I don't have a lot of positivity towards this club. Most people want to be friends with me from a distance.
That's how you're supposed to do it now.
Exactly.
So you don't have a choice, right? You got to stay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're socially distanced.
I don't have any positivity at all. I mean, listen, Charlton went better than I thought, only because we didn't pull an Oxford. But as far as getting back in the Premier League, the stuff we were pulling against Charlton, that's not going to work against Premier League defenses. You can't have Lanzini dance around in the box for 20 minutes and lay it off to Anderson who scores. It's never going to happen.
Our biggest issue is that we have players that, when pressed, and that is just how the Premier League's built, don't have the capacity to look at passes or create triangles or play the channels the way that other Premier League teams have, because they're better trained. They're better. There's just, I don't know what it is, but forever it's always looked like, and I know that Liverpool is the gold standard of how you should play football right now.
Yeah.
But go there and look at players playing the triangle. Look at anybody that's American that's into basketball, the triangle defense. It's the same. Or the triangle offense. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You need to look at how things have. And I agree. I don't want to call anyone pop. I just feel weird about that. But look at how
Pop Smoke's cousin. That's who it is. R.I.P.
Pop Smoke.
R.I.P. What's the thing you do? I don't know. Anyway,
But
not good at that stuff.
R.I.P. Pop Smoke. Brooklyn, what's up? Queens, what's up? But like, look at how we play the channels. Look at how we have the ability to maneuver the offense, to pass the ball quickly. And the simple fact of the matter is that we aren't built that way, and it really scares me. So I don't think we're going to do well against an Arteta offense, and I think he's done really well at Arsenal. So
I do too.
see. I think that if we win this, I think just like we'll win any game against the top four, it'll be a 1-0. I think our defense will play well. I think that we'll see a game from someone like Ben Johnson if he plays. But the simple fact of the matter is we have two fullbacks that can't really cross. Well, Cresswell, the fucked up thing is that Cresswell and Masuaku can't cross the ball, but neither can defend.
That's right. Neither can defend. Cresswell can't do anything anymore. Listen, he's been a great servant to the club, but I think the guy's lost it.
He can look like a pretty boy.
Yeah, I mean, I would like Aaron Cresswell for what he's done for West Ham over the last 4 or 5 seasons, but it's clear to me that he's done. He needs to float down into the championship or wherever he is going to end up. I know he's only 30, but the guy's lost it. Masuaku is a pretty darn good left wing, but he can't defend at all. So it's like when we stuck Antonio at right back.
Well, I mean,
similar results. Okay, so Cameron, what are you thinking for us? Wait, you get
again?
Hey, did you ever watch Soul Train, Cameron? Years ago? Okay, Soul Train. When I was a kid, I used to watch Soul Train every Saturday. The host was a guy named Don Cornelius, who's a great entrepreneur.
R.I.P. Don Cornelius all day.
Absolutely, died a few years ago. Great entrepreneur. Seriously, great entrepreneur. But he, when he would interview the artist after the song, he'd always point the microphone in the wrong direction. Like he would ask the question like this, and he pointed at himself. Then he'd go, whoop, 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 whoop. He'd get confused. So anyway, that's what that reminded me of. The great legendary Don Cornelius, rest in power. Seriously. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm same lines as pretty much most of you guys. It seems like where I'm not at all optimistic, and I think we are going to make minimal changes and stick with a very old, tired lineup of what Moyes seems to think he knows, and that's about it. I would love to see Anderson and Masuaku against a Premier League team and see if they have the same chemistry, and because they worked well on defense together against Charlton, but again, that's Charlton.
Right. And if you saw
I would at least like to give it a try against a Premier League top 6 quality squad and see what they can do, especially against somebody like Willian, who has a knack for scoring against us and everything. Let's try something different to stop that, maybe. Just maybe. I would love to see Haller up top. I don't think it's going to happen. I would love to see Yarmolenko start or play as a striker. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. I realize that too. Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way you do. Now the question is, do you, for nostalgic reasons? Oh no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Chelsea. I was going to say, do you start David Martin in goal? But that was Chelsea, not Arsenal. So sorry, I got confused. That happens all the time. Nick, what do you? So, Cameron, not a good prognostication. You're saying for the result.
I same as Casey. I think if we win, it's going to be a kind of squeaky bum cheek, 1-0, where it's just we're somehow keeping everything out of the goal through just sheer magic. But I think the chances of that happening are low.
Yeah, I do too. I do think Pop has a point here. They are a little weak defensively. Problem is, so are we. And I could actually see us scoring in this game, but I could see us losing 3-1.
Yeah.
And we remember they just bought a 30 million pound defender named Gabriel that's going to help them look better at the back too.
That's true.
I mean, he's only played one game, but I mean, he was one of the best defenders in the league on last year. So where they are weak at the back, they've also gotten better.
Well, they've spent to improve. I mean, imagine that, spending to improve. Who does that? Nick, what do you think?
Everybody but us.
Right. Even friggin' Villa, Leeds. I mean, anyway, but we know how that goes.
I mean, I think West Ham could. The weird part is they could always pull out something out of their back pocket and just surprise all of us. But I mean, I'm not going into the game confident, and I'd rather set my expectations really low so that I'm not that disappointed.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, I saw that coming. I saw that 5-0 loss coming.
Yeah.
But a part of me wants to see Moyes go for it a little bit.
Me too. He won't, though. He won't.
That's the hard part. Like,
part of me wants to see. I want to see him possessed by Gianfranco Zola just once. Because when Zola was our manager, I mean, he had his faults, but he went for it. Those were less talented teams, I thought, but they played good football. Now they didn't always win, but they went for it.
It was entertaining. I mean, if you look at
what I'm saying.
When we were playing under Zola, that was the first time I saw the team. I believe that was the first time it had to be, because I would have saw the team play at Upton Park against Bolton, and that would have been the year before he was sacked. But he was terrible defensively. And that was the biggest issue.
Yeah.
I mean, during that time period, that was those were the years that Carlton Cole scored more goals in one season than his entire career, and there's a reason for that. We just went balls to the wall and let people fucking move the ball forward.
You talked to Jack Collison. We've talked to Jack on the show. You talked to the guys who played for Zola. They loved Zola. They loved him. He was a player's manager.
He was 5'2". How do you not love a little 5'2" guy? You can
and he was and he had so much enthusiasm.
I don't want Dave Sullivan.
He was a player's manager. He let him have a lot of freedom. He let the attacking players have a lot of freedom. He was stuck at the back with a bunch of scrubs but he wasn't afraid to go for it. And first season it worked out well. Second season we stayed up on 35 points only because there were three teams that were worse. But anyway, what else do you have for us, Nick? Any other thoughts?
So just really, really quick, just as an aside on that, did anybody see the interview with Carlton Cole talking about how I forget who was captain at the time, but like they had to pull Zola aside because he would train with the players and everything and be like, dude, you're killing our defense's confidence. Like you can't train with us.
Jack Collison said the same thing. He didn't say it on our show. He said it on Twitter. He said Zola's first training session, he just ripped some shot from like 35 yards and put it top bins. And everybody was like, none of us could do that. So maybe don't do that. Yeah, it was. He kind of embarrassed him a little bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if Newcastle's attack could dismantle us, I'm kind of scared for what Arsenal will do. But I mean, anything could happen. It's West Ham.
The most West Ham thing to do would be for us to win, right? Because we're in all this turmoil. We had a terrible start to the season. Everybody's talking about relegation. We've bought nobody. So the only result we could possibly get would be a 1-0 victory out of this, but somehow I don't think it's going to happen. Andrew, what are your thoughts on Saturday?
So just to go back to something that you said earlier about how like in the past we've had teams with less talent that have done better. This team has so much talent in it, but as talented as we are just as fickle. These players are just as fickle. So that is something that bothers me quite a bit. I would love to see a 4-3-3 with the inverted wingers and fullbacks if we had them that could give width, and kind of air raid Arsenal, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to see a 4-2-3-1. And then I can imagine he's probably going to put Noble in the 10 hole.
He will. He will.
I've got that feeling. I have a feeling he probably won't switch out Cresswell, which kind of scares me because Willian's going to run him ragged. And if Willian doesn't, they have right behind him Nicola Pepe, who's just as quick and crafty. So, of course, I'd love to see Masuaku go out there because he's got the legs to keep up with them, but I don't think he has the brain to. So you're kind of at a loss here. So I mean, I'm expecting something, nothing too crazy. Like a 2-0 or something like that. I'm expecting. However, I know you said earlier that they got Gabrielle, but Arsenal can be symbolic. Let's see if we can trigger that. That'd be nice. It's the only thing I can ask for.
I think we can score. I do. I think we have goals in us. I thought the Newcastle performance looked to me like what we had right before and right after the restart last season. The first two games after the restart, I mean, against I think it was Spurs and Wolves and Spurs maybe, just total throwaways. You know what I mean? No effort, and then after that it got a lot better. Last 9 or the last 7, we're really pretty good. Even with the loss to Burnley, we really played pretty well. So I don't know. I think personally that the sale of Grady Diangana demoralized the players. I think that what you saw against not Brighton, the B teams, I'm telling you, against Bournemouth in the last friendly, what you saw against Bournemouth was a little bit of a protest, honestly, and I think it spilled over into Newcastle. Charlton looked, like a better performance. And Andrew, who did we lose there?
Lost Nick.
Nick, yeah, sorry. Come back, Nick. Come back, buddy, if you can. Charlton looked better, and maybe we can carry a little momentum into that. I don't know, but I'm with Andrew. This is a talented team. We talk about this all the time. John Nolan, if he's still on, he says this all the time when he's on the show. These guys. Last season, if you guys remember, beginning of last season, a lot of pundits picked us to be top 8, even top 6. A lot. It was almost like a plurality of them, I guess. You know what I mean? And then of course we ended up 16th or whatever it was. This is still a team that if everybody fires on all cylinders is a top 10 team. I don't think we're top 6 or top 8, but I think we're top 10. We're going to struggle, I think, in part because, as you said, some of our play. If everybody put out the effort of Mikel Antonio, if everybody put out the effort of Declan Rice, 90 minutes every week, I think we'd be solidly mid-table. Maybe not much better, but solidly mid-table. But you get guys who sulk. You get guys who don't put in full effort. You get Allaire, and I know we haven't used him properly, but he doesn't look interested. Anderson wanders around out there, not interested. And you just can't. It destroys the chemistry of the team to me.
Can we kind of put this in the view of American football for a second? Because
always.
I think this is super interesting. I think that the biggest thing. So, Andrew, you can talk about this too. Let's talk about Michael Thomas last weekend. Michael Thomas is one of the, if not the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. Now, it's a little different because you have systems and you have ways that people are used. But because American football is so start-stop, you have the ability to kind of disengage for small seconds during plays.
Correct.
That's the biggest difference between what's going on in European football or soccer and the American NFL. Is that you have no time to disengage. When you disengage for a few seconds,
yes,
you disengage for much longer because it's 90 minutes, 45 minutes nonstop.
Yes.
Now, right. I think that's something to really take into consideration. Like, I think that Anderson is a player kind of like Michael Thomas. I think he's somebody that if he gets going, he's unstoppable. But if he can't get that consistency, if he can't make those moves, if he can't beat his man once or twice, he can't tie these things together, he does get down on himself.
Yeah.
And it's a little different, again, I'll take a little different. It's very different than American football when, like, if Breeze throws it to him 2 or 3 times, he drops the ball, doesn't get separation to get coverage. It'll take another 45 minutes for him to throw something to him, which is very different. Think about it like that, but instead, like, if you don't beat your man once or twice, or if you get caught up, maybe you feel down on yourself and you can't make those runs. I mean, it's just such a weird thing because you're talking about such in American football isolated incidents where this is just 45 minutes. You have no choice. You just have to either go with it and be extremely strong mentally, which I don't think there are many players that are.
Correct.
I don't
Not
think
on
that
not at
makes
West Ham. Not at West Ham.
No,
and
And that's what's kind of weird to me because, like, I still play on a local team and everything. I mean, it's not professional or anything like that, but like, kind of playing as like a right back and everything. If I can't like make that overlapping run and get past and like make that good run, I get pissed, and then I try that much harder the next time to pretty much run a shoulder into the guy and bowl him over and let him know I'm there. Like, I don't like getting beaten on either side of the ball, and
I
like,
understand
I
how you
just don't
feel.
see that.
When I played rugby, I was like that. I was not a very good rugby player, but I got really violent if I made a mistake.
But I think but that's the difference between, because I think that there's a way that you use frustration as fuel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think there's such a gap between professionalism and amateurism, and I think that frustration adds to the fuel of being an amateur, whereas
Oh, no, I agree.
failure is
That's fair. That's
professional,
fair.
because you have so
Absolutely.
much pressure of 30 to 60,000 people behind you. When something comes off, it just compounds. And I just want to go ahead and point out, I have no fucking clue whether any of this is true or not. I'm just speculating from my little armchair.
Listen, I think there's
yeah. I'm sorry. Let me
go ahead.
interject real quick. So I do think that we saw something very different last time during the COVID stretch of last year. Whenever we had the water breaks, I think that kind of was a key pivotal part when it came to keeping us up, because whenever something was happening, we had a big team complete onslaught against us. We had somebody like Moyes, who does know the game very well, to be able to come bring them in, rally the troops, and kind of strategize and go out there and regroup and finish out the last, 15, 25 minutes. I think that's something we don't have anymore. If there's something going on and they're completely finding us out and working us to death, I mean, you kind of got to stick with the same thing. I mean, there's no timeouts. There's no David Moyes using his footballing genius to save yourself in the last few minutes. That's just not a thing. So
yeah, and I think you're right, and I do think it made a difference when we had those breaks and they could regroup a little bit. I also think it's true, Casey, what you said about professionals versus amateurs. Amateurs, we want to prove ourselves. I think professionals figure they've already proven themselves. You know what I mean? They've gotten to the highest level. They've gone through they've been playing since they were small kids. They've gone through every possible test. You know what I mean? They've signed the big contract, and now they're there. And I don't think there's a sense of, with most of them, of like, well, now I have to show what I can do. I think it's like, well, I'm here. You should appreciate me, for being here. And if I'm not succeeding, it's because I'm not in the right situation. I'm unsettled, as they always say in football. You never hear this word in American sports. Nobody's ever unsettled, but in football, the people are unsettled.
I don't know. You're hearing it more often.
Are you? I feel as though I never hear that.
Andrew, here you go. What's been going on with Alvin Kamara?
Oh,
we don't say the phrase unsettled, but
Yes.
if you talk about NFL players, again, going back to the NFL, you talk about players that are holding out. They're just holding out for more money. Unsettled is the same thing. Unsettled is players that are holding out for more money, because the thing, and Lee, you and I have talked about this. The simple fact of the matter is this is a job.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Yep.
There's literally one player on our team where this is not a job, and it's Mark Noble. And it's because if you look at his background and what he's done with his money and the money he's made outside of that, because there's already been conversations about him retiring soon and not giving a shit about this, because he has a real estate background where in London, I don't know. He may need to play another couple years after COVID.
Right now, it may not help him very much, but eventually.
But exactly. My point is that he is the only person we've never really heard about this. So mentality comes from safety, I guess is the best way I can put it. And he feels economically safe, whereas other people, and I don't even know I don't know Mark Noble's background. So is the way I know some other people. Like,
I just know he's an East London guy. He's a native. Yeah.
He's from Canning Town, which is in the best part of London. Yeah. But Anderson, I have no idea what his life was like when he was a kid. And for most people, and fans need to realize this, the same way that we're realizing it in the NFL, and I think that we've realized it a lot quicker because of just the franchise version of sports here. This is a job, man.
It's
a job. It's a job, and they don't. And listen, for any of us to really expect and push for loyalty,
They'd be stupid to be loyal. Kate, I've said this many times here, but I'll say it briefly again. Years ago, when I got my first job as a reporter, I was writing for a trade magazine in the technology industry. It was my first. Wasn't my first job out of college. It was my first job as a journalist, and I really loved it. And it was a great team, and people had kind of taken a chance on me to give me a job there. My first job as a journalist, and I was there for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I got a call from a competing publication, a bigger publication offering me more money, and I was like, okay, bye. I mean, it was just like that. It wasn't even a choice. Do you know what I mean? And I know I didn't have millions of fans adoring my writing, so it wasn't quite like being Declan Rice or somebody like that. But when a bigger, better known employer came to me and said, we'll pay you more money to do basically the same thing but on a bigger stage, yeah, okay, I'll take it. That's all there is to it.
But it's not a malicious choice either.
No, it wasn't malicious at all. Wonderful people I worked for at the first company. Fantastic people. Great. Still talk to them, stayed friends with many of them for years. It was just a better deal. A better deal came along. And, no matter what you do in life, if a better deal comes along and you're able to get out of the deal you're in, you should do it. Somebody put a tweet up the other day that said something along the lines of, would you rather sign for QPR for £5 million or 5,000 pounds a week and be adored by the fans, or sign for West Ham for 50,000 pounds a week and be ignored, or sign for Chelsea for 100,000 pounds a week and be hated by the fans? And I said, I'm signing for the 100,000 pounds, man. You're gonna be stupid not to.
Well, like, I just put this in context of English football too. It wasn't until like the 50s or 60s that you didn't have a.
I'm not talking about wives. I'm not talking about wives. To be fair, just jobs. Faithful to the wife. Not that a lot of women are coming after me. By the way. Anyway.
Yeah, but I ain't had a lot of women pay me for sex either. So that's a whole.
That's what I'm saying. I've never had that kind of offer. So,
but. My point is, in the 50s and 60s, you had a maximum wage as a footballer, like literally maximum wage.
Yeah, they didn't make much more than working people.
And that would not even then. They made less than working people.
They had to have jobs on the off season. Yeah.
So who am I thinking of? Stuart Pearce was a player that played for West Ham United, and
back on our coaching staff.
And he's back on our coaching staff. And I believe that he was working as an electrician or carpenter of some sort while he started his playing career, and that was in the early 90s. Yes. So you have to understand.
Premier League changed everything. Yeah,
that us talking about what footballers did post 1960s till the mid to late 1990s, and I would be proud of it. My dad was a stripper. I'd be following his footsteps.
What, your dad was a stripper?
It's a whole story, but yes, he was. That's how I met my mom. But
that's how he met your mom.
Yes. Okay. But
he was a stripper. And that's how he met your mom.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Well, as you were saying,
no shame in that game. No shame in that game.
I'm making no judgments at all. I'm just trying to clarify the facts.
Hey, man, my dad looks like Ric Flair. He did his thing, and
I have just clarified I make no judgments at all. Seriously.
But my real stupid point is that it wasn't until the 2000s that you saw wages become a war for footballers, and become to a point where you didn't have to worry about your kids or your kids' kids until the late 2010s, and we can't expect the same level of quote unquote loyalty,
right?
That you saw in the 70s and 80s. Tony Cotty left West Ham to go to Everton. you
Right.
wouldn't be able to
So
look
did
at
Slaven Bilic. So did Slaven Bilic for that matter.
exactly. Well, he was only here for a year, so anybody
Yeah.
calling him a legend makes no sense to me. But
I think I agree with you on that. Totally agree with you on that.
it's all of those players.
And he was an overrated manager, by the way.
Billy
that's
Bond, I don't know. We had, but it's hard to say he's overrated because we had the greatest year
He had
since the late '90s, and he had great players underneath him. I get it, but at the same time,
he had
still
Payet.
did it. And then he also brought West
He's
Brom.
been very good with West Brom. I agree. He's been excellent with West Brom. He and Julian Dix had.
My biggest point is that you saw players in the '80s, like Billy Bonds and all these other players that stayed with West Ham United for a very long time. Bobby Moore didn't want to, and this is before the maximum wage abolishment. Bobby Moore didn't want to be with West Ham United.
No, he tried 3 times to go to the Spurs.
Before 1966, he tried to leave. He didn't have a club in 1966. It was Alf Ramsey and I can't think of and maybe Ron Greenwood that were brought together to make him sign a new contract with West Ham United so he could play in the '66 World Cup. So
right.
So all of this shit of like loyalty does not really compute to me.
And he did indeed, of course. Foe is right. He did leave, of course, for Fulham, and he played against us in the played against West Ham in the '75 FA Cup final.
Near the end of his career,
at the end of his career, because then he went to the NASL. Yeah.
He played during that time. He played at Fulham with George Best.
Yes, who was at the end of his career as well.
And they lost that game. So
yes, they did. Yes, they did. They were no, but you're right. I mean, we've seen this a lot in American sports. The reserve clause is gone in the NFL and Major League, but all the leagues. So you have free agency, you have players moving around. It wasn't always about loyalty. It was in many cases, as you said, Casey, it was because they couldn't legally go anywhere else.
They were indentured servants.
Right.
Most athletes were, strangely enough.
They were, and they were here, and they were in England as well.
And hell, you could argue that they still are in the NFL. Even though they hold out, it's still you could be cut tomorrow. The average lifespan of
absolutely right in the
professional
NFL
footballer in the United States is like 2-3 years. So,
yeah, well, there's no guaranteed contracts either. So you get injured and you're just done. Exactly. You're just cut. Which is not like that in well, anyway, that's a different story altogether. But yeah, the loyalty. If you're an athlete, if you're loyal in a way that is detrimental to your own progression, then you're stupid. Basically, you know what I mean? If you can make more money and play for a bigger club, you should. I mean, you should. Anybody should in any profession, as long as it's something you want to do. You know what I mean? Listen, we love Mark Noble. There he is, Hammer Shots champion. We love Mark Noble. All right, all of us love him. He's Mr. West Ham. We know that. I mean, one of the reasons he's still at West Ham is that he never exactly attracted a lot of interest from anywhere else.
I always said the simple fact that Mark Noble is still with us is for a lot of reasons, but one of the main ones is that at any given point where he would have made more money, he would have made more money for a shorter period of time. So let's say that at his highest point, he would have made £60,000 a week.
Right.
He would have made it for 3 years with anybody. At one point, he could have gone to Arsenal. If he went to Arsenal, he would have made £60,000 a week for over 3 years. Yep. He stayed with us, making £50,000 to £60,000 a week for 8 years.
Right.
So he made the more wise financial decision to stay at where he was at because he was never going to go anywhere, start, and stay there for as long as he could keep a career at West Ham United.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely.
Yes, it was.
It was 100%. He had to say
100%. 100%.
He had to say it. If he hadn't said it, he wouldn't have had any credibility with his own teammates. He had to say what he said. And he held back. I mean, he basically said #GSB out without saying it. But he held back for what I think he was really feeling. I felt as, we'll go back to this, again, I felt as though we had some momentum coming out of last season, which only ended, a couple of months ago. Not even. And I felt as though, those first couple of preseason friendlies, I know they don't mean anything, but we were comfortable. And then the Grady sale, it just, West Ham is a delicate balancing act. I feel as though we're always on the brink of just, falling into the abyss, if that makes sense. And we had this little sort of momentum built up at the end of last season, at the early preseason. Like, okay, it's moving along. It's moving along. Don't do anything to mess it up. Well, in steps David Sullivan, and here we are. And I think if we stay up this season, it's going to be an accomplishment. Forget about being mid-table or winning a trophy. I think if we stay up, it's going to be an accomplishment. Yeah, well, this is another one that just, what can you say? Listen, it was a risk. All right. Everybody takes risks. This one didn't pay off. If Jack Wilshere had been healthy, he'd have been arguably the best player at West Ham. He could have transformed the team. It just didn't happen that way. That's how I see it anyway.
If he was a healthy player, he would have stayed at Arsenal.
That is very true, Andrew. That's probably the most salient point of all. If he was healthy, he would never have been here to begin with. Yeah, that's true. What's up with you, Nolan? What are you doing? You coming into the 89th minute substitution here. What's happening?
I'm coming and congratulate everybody on a fantastic show. It's been great following along in the chat room. But Tim's giving me orders too. I need to plug Friday Night Likes because it's back.
Oh, it is. Good. Okay, plug.
This Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern. It will be back with me and Wally and Becky behind the scenes helping with some questions and contestants and fun and thumbs up and thumbs down and all the regular Friday Night Like stuff, which is a show about opinions, and there are no right answers except the ones that I think are correct. So everybody tune in. 8 o'clock this coming Friday we start up, and a couple of twists in the plot which I won't reveal now.
Having been on the show before, it's an absolute blast.
It's a huge amount of fun. Casey and Andrew, you guys should be on. The night I was on it, I was on with who was the other? I was on with Ian Bishop, so I never had a chance, right? That was part of the deal. Ian Bishop was on there, but who was the other one, John, who was on with us? Do you remember?
No, Lee, I can't.
I can't remember who it was.
So many people that went through that show at this point. The only people I remember, Ian Bishop and Charlie won it. That's about it. Everybody else is a blur.
Ian Bishop gave a masterclass that night. I should find that episode and tweet it again, because it turned into not so much Friday Night Lights. It's like, let's just listen to Ian Bishop say things, because the guy, first of all, he's brilliant. He's been so good to us. He's a fantastic guy. And then that night was just like, it was like spiritual. If you haven't watched it, it's like 2 hours long, but watch it. It's totally, watch that instead of some lame Netflix movie. It's totally worth watching. But yeah, if you guys haven't been on Friday Night Lights, you should go on Friday Night Lights. It's a lot of fun.
Do you think
John
there's any chance for us to get? Because the one West Ham United player in history that I would love to speak to, and I don't know if we could actually have a conversation or not, because I don't know how much English he speaks. Alessandro Diamante would be the most interesting thing.
I would listen. We are always trying to get ex-players. The only game I ever saw at the Bowl-In, he scored on a free kick right before halftime. It was against Birmingham City in 2010. So it's almost 11 years ago now. February 2010. I would love to have Diamante on. The guy was crazy, but I loved him as a player. Wish he'd stayed longer. We're always going after ex-players. I've always said my white whale, the one I'll hunt until I die, is Carlton Cole. Because I love Carlton Cole. But we've had Jack Collison, we've had Matthew Jarvis.
I think that's way more likely than Alessandro Diamante.
Well, maybe because of the language barrier, but availability for Carlton is not the greatest. And he works for the club, and it's been a little bit harder to get guys who work for the club to talk to us. Although Paul Konchesky did it, and he was awesome, by the way. Paul Konchesky is a great guy, like a first-rate dude. If you haven't watched that episode, I came away really liking him a lot. But yeah, we've had, and Jack Collison, of course, is a really good guy as well. He and Tim actually know each other pretty well, so we love Jack Collison, and he's here in the U.S. But yeah, if we could get Alessandro Diamante, I'd be all over that, man. My wife speaks Italian.
There you go.
I think we could make that happen.
You send him a message on Twitter through your wife.
Yeah, I think we could make that. I think we could. She would hate me if I had to say, would you translate on our West Ham YouTube show for an Italian footballer?
He's the only person that I've seen. Well, he's not the only West Ham player I've seen score, but he was the first West Ham player I saw score for us.
Yes.
My first loss at Upton Park.
Well, he was the first one I saw score live because I only went to one game. So anyway, I don't know where there's like a little feedback coming in from somebody.
I don't know, but it sounds like a whale.
I
Yeah,
think
somebody's playing a didgeridoo over there.
that's probably my dog snoring.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't think it's coming from here. I think everything seems pretty quiet in the house right now, except for me. Yeah, except for me, I'm never quiet. That's part of the problem. But yeah, so Friday Night Likes, and it's this Friday then, right?
This Friday it begins, and then hopefully every Friday from now until the end of time. We are
What
just
time? What time this Friday?
8 Eastern, I think.
8
Ask
Eastern?
Wally.
Okay.
Ask Wally. Yeah,
I don't see Wally on
don't
tonight.
have my
I don't
shit
see Wally on
together
tonight.
at Wally. No, it's 8. It's at 8, and Tim's lining up the guests, and I don't know. It's just gonna be fun. We have a whole summer's worth, and by summer I mean a month, worth
would
of
be great.
questions that we need to ask people because of all the action that's been going on around the club. And there's some good questions. There's some fun questions. We got questions about breakfast foods coming as well. So is all that to tune in for. It's just exciting stuff.
Do you know what I heard? So there's these rumors, of course, of an American takeover of West Ham, and there's like we don't know the name of the person, but we know stuff like he lives in like sort of the Mid-Atlantic area, in like one of the historical cities on the East Coast, and he likes to brew beer. And he was the champion of hammer shots this past season. So I don't know if you know who this guy is, but
I'm only rich and friendly. I wish I had the kind of money to buy out West Ham. I'd love to, but
yeah, it is funny. People say things like, "Of course, you'd need to win a lot more than a lottery to buy West Ham." People say things. What would you do if you won the lottery? Oh, I'd give the money to my family, or I'd buy a house, or whatever. Like, I'd buy West Ham. That's what I would do. I'd be like, kids, you're on your own.
And I
Wife,
call you an idiot.
Well, it's probably not the smartest investment.
I'd go and buy like Braintree Town for like 20 million, and then just keep the other like 60 million to myself.
Yeah, I don't know. I would buy West Ham, and then I would appoint myself manager. I would appoint myself manager, and then we'd end up in the
We can all hate you too.
right. We'd end up in the Isthmian whatever it is league in the 12th division playing. We'd end up below Chelmsford City. So
not to get all serious, but since I jumped in and I can jump back out, I don't want to. You guys are doing a great job.
We're almost done. It doesn't matter.
But what is the point of buying a football club these days? Unless it's either the marketing arm of whatever organization you own, like Emirates Airlines,
right? Or Red Bull,
just a great way to market your product, or some kind of commercial real estate venture where you can build up around the property that you potentially own around it. Otherwise, what is the actual point in buying a football club?
I seriously think it's a really bad investment. No joke. I really do. I think
I don't. I think that it comes down to John, your point. If you look at the people trying to buy clubs now, you're talking about Qatari investment, United Arabs investment, Saudi investment. And it really does come down to the idea of sports washing, where you're looking at how you gain soft power in the world and gain contacts. And I think it's the same if you look at a lot of investment firms. I think that, owning a property in London, I mean, now it's so vastly different because we have no idea what the hell's going to happen next year. I said this earlier. I think there's a lot of people in this world that believe that once we hit 12 a.m. on January 1st, that the entire world's going to be a lot better, when in reality, I think next year is just going to be another pile of shit that we have to deal with.
I agree. Maybe worse, Casey, maybe worse.
But
yeah,
I think that one of the issues that we'll see is that with sports, because they're not franchises, because they're not these just constantly generating financial machines, I mean, Roman Abramovich has put in $2 billion in the last 20 years of owning Chelsea. That is an ungodly amount of money for any singular human being. I think
incomprehensible almost. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that one of the other things I think from an investment and sports washing, apparently, what pains my heart to say the words fascisti coming out of my mouth. I don't know why. I just really hate that phrase. I love you. You're a nice guy. I just hate that phrase for some weird reason.
Just call him foe. Foe is fine.
But foe, but a friend. But I think the other thing that comes out of it from a investment vehicle is just the connections of owning something that is cool and nice to be a part of in an international city. I think it's the same reason that, well, not the same reason, but I think that it's just like if you were able to be James Dolan and own the Rangers, the Knicks, own the Nets in New York, owning a sports property in London allows your marketing arm of or your sales arm of whatever entity you own to bring people in and gain connections in other parts of the world you wouldn't necessarily have. So I do think that there are reasons for doing it. But if you believe that you are single-handedly going to own a football club and make a ton of money, I think that you are mistaken while being successful. One of the greatest anecdotes I've ever read, there's a book that I can't think of the name of right now, but maybe I'll send it to Lee and he can put it up. But it's a book about the creation of the Premier League. And
you told me about this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And
you told me the name of it, and I can't think of what it's called.
I gave it to somebody. I have all my little bookshelf in front of me, but I don't have it with me because I gave it to a friend of mine. But Roman Abramovich went and came here to the U.S., and I think he met with the owner of the Eagles, and he was like, yeah, how much money did you spend on the Eagles last year? And he's like, the Eagles owner was like, I made $50 million last year on the Eagles, whatever it was. And he's like, how much money did you make working on your club, Chelsea? And he goes, I spent $300 million. And he's like, yeah, but how much did you make? And he goes, well, no, I spent $300 million.
Right.
And like the owner of the Eagles could, again, I could be wrong. I think it was the Eagles, but he was like, he just could not, for the life of him, comprehend spending money on a team.
Yeah.
Because you spend money on a team when you buy them.
Yeah, exactly.
After that, it is literally just paychecks coming back, dividends and from your revenue coming back into you.
Yep.
In football, it's just completely different. You're just, especially Chelsea, who came from literally obscurity.
Yep.
And if anybody wants to try me on this, that's an American Chelsea fan, go read about your fucking club.
They were less successful than West Ham. They were, yeah. They
And
came.
so,
they were like Palace, or they were nothing.
So you're just not getting money out of it, and until you are a sustainable entity, and I mean, I think that the future is Man City, where you are a sports group owning multiple teams, and you can use them for whatever you want. But I think that relationship between 4 or 5 clubs around the world and just kind of parsing through the best talent you have is the only way that people end up making money. I mean, Chelsea makes money. I mean, in a way.
Red Bull, where you're a corporation.
They're a sports group. They are a sports group that own, Red Bull own Formula One teams. They own God knows what. They are a true sports entity, more so even at this point than they are a fucking energy drink.
They're not about the drink anymore. Yeah, that's a lifestyle brand. Basically, yeah. No, that's the way it's headed. The Premier League changed everything. This is why, I really wish I'm easily old enough to remember football before the Premier League. I'm just not English enough, I wish I could have been around in the 80s when it was still a little more pure and more fun. Because where it's headed now is just toward. I mean, you're never going to have it without a massive buyout. Manchester City style or Chelsea style buyout, you're never going to have another time when Nottingham Forest, when they win the second division, then they win the first division, then they win 2 European Cups, and it happens in 4 consecutive seasons.
That's not really fair either, because that was
what happened.
It did, but that's also an anomaly in itself too, because you had Leeds winning in the 70s, and they were one of the richest clubs in the entire country at that point too.
Yeah.
Derby had a very rich owner. And then you go on to Liverpool in the 70s and 80s, and Liverpool also had more money than almost any other club in the country. So money has played a part in it. I think that we have this weird idea that we have this weird romanticized idea of what football was. But in reality, like, since the 1800s, I mean, in the late 1800s, they were all owned by factories that worked everybody to fucking death and then gave them one day off so they could play football. So
Right.
I think that we have a bit more romanticized view of what this stuff is.
Oh, but listen, Casey, money's always influenced everything. We know that.
Yeah, no.
Cameron told me he's got to go. We all got to go here pretty soon. But yeah, Cameron, listen, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
We'll do it again soon.
Yep, sounds good.
I mean, money's always influenced everything. We know that. That's the whole history of the world. I think what you and yeah, I mean Liverpool and to a lesser extent Manchester United, even Arsenal. If you go far enough back, they had a lot of success in the 70s, and prior to that in the 30s, 40s. Yeah, it's always been a factor. I think the difference is now, it's it's so immediate. And it can sort of be bestowed upon a club like out of nowhere, like again, Chelsea, a middling sort of top tier, sometimes second tier club in England for, like 100 years. And all of a sudden they're one of the biggest clubs in Europe overnight, just like that,
That could have been a very real reality for Newcastle should that deal have gone through.
It could have been reality for Newcastle. That's what I'm saying. Newcastle almost got the money, the closest thing, and somebody mentioned
the fish got bigger though. Right, Lee? I mean, the fish got bigger because it went from regional to global.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
There were always people trying to make money on football. They were just regional people that were regionally, very wealthy. And now when you expand that pool to, a more global kind of ownership model where people anywhere in the world could go and buy a football club in England, you open it up to a whole different tier of wealth.
You buy players from anywhere in the world. Most of those guys who played for Liverpool, who played for Arsenal and Manchester United in the 70s and Leeds, they were British. I mean,
yeah, but that's because the sporting pool was so much smaller. That's not necessarily down to down to the limitations of actually buying players and scouting players around the world. They shouldn't.
But that's what I'm saying. But John's right. It's open to the Premier League as a global brand, especially in the last 10 years, has opened up everything. Has opened up access to new players, new markets, new fields for scouting, everything. And that's, I mean, it's all tied into the size of the Premier League and the size of the clubs in the Premier League. And I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, okay, Leicester won the title. We know that happened. Leicester, by the way, they're not like a poor club. Do you know what I mean? They're not a Chelsea, but they have a decent owner. You're not going to get, you're not going to get West Ham finishing third again anytime soon. Is what I'm saying, because structurally we can't do that.
Look at it like this: in 1995, 96, Blackburn won the title, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They won the title because they spent more money than almost any other club in the league.
Well, sure, it's always been possible to do that.
But we're going back to post Premier League, but at the same time, they spent more money than almost anybody else. Bringing Alan Shearer, making sure you had. I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I think that we romanticize things pre-1992, and you should, because it's vastly different. And I honestly, again, I'm an American that has done nothing but read books because I was born in 88. So
same here. Well,
I don't have the ability to go back and contextualize all this shit.
I understand that, yeah.
But I do understand, like, I think that people romanticize a lot of shit more so than.
Of course they do, and people are nostalgic. I mean, I get that. But I will say that I think there was an authenticity. I don't know. Maybe John could tell us. He was around more than I was. There's an authenticity to it that existed in the 70s and 80s that has kind of gone in the 90s, and I mean that has kind of gone in the last 10 years, I should say, not in the 90s. Started to die in the 90s. Yeah, it's always possible to spend a lot of money, but you had. I mean. Even in the Premier League era, you got occasionally like Bradford spent a couple of seasons in the Premier League. If you go back and look at who was in
Oldham has, but Oldham spent the last 13, 15 years in League Two and done nothing but stay in League Two.
Right. But you have, I don't know, I feel as though the difference to me now is, I know Leicester was a big exception, basically because Tottenham bottled the league that season. But it's really not possible anymore for there's in Premier League you get 4 or 5 clubs who could potentially win a title, and that's a lot compared to the rest of Europe. You know what I mean? Like PSG will win in France. I know they're struggling to start the season, but they'll win because they'll if they're trailing Marseille or Lyon or somebody like that, at in January, they'll just go out and spend 100 million euros and they'll buy the league. Bayern will win in Germany. They always do. There's no sense of like I don't know, parity or competition and again, you get it in the Premier League more than in most places because you have multiple rich clubs, right? You have Liverpool, you have Manchester United, you have Chelsea, you have Manchester City. Those 4 almost had Newcastle. And then, you have Arsenal floating out there. And again, even Leicester they were never poor. But you can't if you thought we couldn't win the league in the 80s and we definitely can't win it now. It's just not possible.
So let me take a deep breath before I speak for all of England, since that's the corner you've put me in there, Lee.
What? How? Oh, you mean because you were the? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, I think both arguments are probably right in some regard. I think that yes, there is a tinted glasses view of the past. There is a tinted glasses view because the game was more working class. It was more for the working class. People could show up on match day and get a ticket from the ticket office. You didn't have to get a ticket in advance. There was standing to get more fans in.
Yeah.
There was players that were more relatable because they weren't on ridiculous salaries, and the most that they could hope for was maybe owning a pub after their career was over. It was more attached to the people. It was closer to the people.
And John, they were more English and British players. I mean,
there were. Yeah, I mean, the most exciting foreign player when I was growing up was probably Georgie Kinkladze, for instance, and that was exotic. Like a Russian winger. But there's still going back in the past as well. Though I'd say there was definitely more of an element of anybody could beat anybody, and it's interesting you bring up the Blackburn comment, Casey, because they spent a shitload of money. Correct. The reason they won the league. It's not one in one game, but West Ham drew with Man United on the last game of the season and kind of stopped their title hopes right there, even though we were already mathematically relegated, right?
Yes.
So games like that, at least in the West Ham memories, was, and to some degree this hasn't changed, losing to minnows and beating giants. That's what we've always done. And we've done it in situations where it mattered. So that Blackburn situation, Man United, I mean, Alex Ferguson hates West Ham for the mere fact that happened more than once.
Did it twice. Kenny Brown in '92. Yeah. Handed the title to Leeds.
So there was always, if you look back at just take FA Cup history the last 10, 15 years, it's the same 4 or 5 clubs. If you go back 90s and past, there is a little more variety. So there was always that element to it. Anybody could beat anybody on their day. You had Norwich City, teams like that, finishing 3rd. QPR was a decent team. Preston North End, Notts Forest, obviously.
Right.
But I want to say
more variety.
Less variety in the league, though. So let's take the cup competitions, which is a little different. Just because I think that what's happened is that you have teams that have more money to have deeper squads, which is why I think that was very dangerous about opening it up to 5 subs versus 3 is because you have more money on the bench than you did before. Totally. I think in one-off games, you could see what happens, right? You can see that POAK or PAOK or whatever you want to call it in Greece just beat Benfica for the Champions League playoffs. Much smaller team, but it's a one-off game.
Yeah.
I think that leagues are decided, and honestly, Bayern Munich has won the league more often than not since the 1970s. Juve and teams like Inter and maybe Napoli's only like won it like twice, but like Juve and Inter and AC Milan have won the league in Italy more times in the last 40 years than anybody else. Real Madrid and Barcelona, PSG when they became one of the richest clubs in the world. But you can go back and see Leon and
Lyon won it seven consecutive seasons. Yeah,
exactly. So my point is
that was in the 2000s.
The Scottish, and we can keep going back a little further too. You can see
Scotland's not a proper league. Don't talk to me about Scotland.
But we can say this about any league. Like, for the most part, the top 5 European leagues have been won by one or two teams for the vast majority of almost 40 years. Portugal's the same way. Benfica and Porto, maybe Sporting
a little, once or twice,
But like, it's just, I don't know. There's a whole. I could keep going on. We're almost at 2 hours. I don't want to keep talking.
I know. We should. I realize that.
But I do want to say that, like, one-off. See, I can keep going forever because we could talk about the Champions League and the fact that the first time that a capital city outside of Madrid and I think Amsterdam won the Champions League for the first time was Chelsea, because these two teams had more money pumped through their capital cities and into the club than any other team in the entire country, and they won it consistently back in the 60s and 70s when it was the European Cup, and it's a whole thing. But like, I don't necessarily feel like things are vastly different from a league perspective than they used to be. Leeds won the league how many times in the 70s because they had more money at that time. They were one of the first. They were one of the first teams to introduce sponsors, just the same way Liverpool was.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they are and they're not, right? I mean, if you look at that Leeds example, could you ever imagine Man United or Man City now dropping down 1, 2, 3 divisions and having to come back up?
Not at all. And that's a fully valid comment. But at the same time, I think that is the biggest difference. But when you're talking about league titles, I don't think things have changed vastly too much.
No, I totally agree with you there.
Casey, I think
it breeds success in some regard. I think that recent success and the amount of money that is now involved in finishing in the top places, continuing Champions League, Europa League, whatever it is, not only perpetuates success, but almost solidifies it, where once you're in that group, it's very, very difficult to drop out. It's almost harder to drop out of that group than it is to break into it.
Well, look at Leicester over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Since they won the league, they've consistently finished higher than they ever had in their history. And that looks to continue. We'll see what happens, but that looks to continue. If it continues for the next 5 years, then it proves that the money you gain from being in Europe affects how you do in the league.
Sure, it does, and the prestige as well of being able to recruit players and say, "Hey, we're in
track players."
Yeah, I think you're right, Casey, about who's finished at the top. It has been, Bayern have won in Germany many, many times, Real in Spain many times. But I think John's point is maybe more what I was getting at. Maybe the Nottingham Forest example wasn't the best example, but it's the idea of like Norwich finishing third, West Ham finishing third. I remember when Ipswich, even in Premier League era, Ipswich had like a top 10 finish one season, and I feel as though, and not just getting into the Premier League like a Bournemouth or a Brighton and hanging around and going back down, but, finishing like top 5, top 8. I mean, really being competitive for Europe. You just really, again, with Leicester being the one interloper, I feel as though you just don't really see that anymore.
Well, the one thing that I see, and I think this is really an important factor, is that you have the ungodly amount of money that always tends to finish in the top, let's say, 5 places. And then you have well-run clubs. Like, I think that, and I think it's a little hard. I think that that Leicester is a well-run club.
I think they are too.
Now getting a lot of money. I think that Wolves is a well-run club. However, I will say the connection to Jorge Mendes and how that actually, or Jorge Mendes, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it in Portuguese. I always get very confused about that. Yeah. But I think that their connection with him is very strange, but it is to a point a well-run club. I think that there is a way to break that top 10 and solidify yourself in that top 10. Burnley is another one.
Yeah.
That is, however, a well-run club to what it is. So I don't know, man. I just think that I don't know. I wish we had a better scouting network. I wish we had two people that actually cared about structure to a fucking club and actually did it well. I don't know.
The thing is, we're falling behind.
You need to have more than one scout to call it a network.
Exactly.
Right. This is what we're falling behind at a time when everybody else is racing ahead. We were supposed to keep up with them or stay ahead of them with the London Stadium, with the ownership of Gold Sullivan Brady, the whole promise. They were talking about Champions League, but at the very least, we should have been at least a solid mid-table Premier League club by now, right? There's no doubt about that. But we're facing relegation this season because we're so poorly run. And the problem is, we're going backwards, and we have a trailer at Chadwell Heath. We have one scout. I mean, all these other mid-table clubs around us are just they're just racing ahead of us. And that's what scares me most, is I feel as though if we don't get bought by somebody, we're on a Sunderland trajectory here. We're on a Portsmouth trajectory, or Coventry City. Remember Coventry City? Remember Coventry City were in the top flight of English football for something like 35 consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
And when they fell, they fell. They're not coming back.
I think that, again, to put it in perspective for Portsmouth, they ended up being bought and had an owner where nobody actually knew who the hell they were. And there's a lot more, and again, I mean,
could happen to us too.
It could 100%.
Like Wigan. Look at Wigan. Look at the situation they just went through.
100%. And
it's literally the plot of Major League.
Wigan's situation is more closely tied to what happened with Portsmouth than what's going on with us. But I think that we are very poorly run. I said this earlier today. Somebody was on Twitter was like, or on Instagram was like, be careful what you wish for. And I was like, well, all I wish for is to not. And again, I want to state the fact that I am American. I go over normally once a year for the last 5 or 6 years to go watch games.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be seen by my ownership as a waste. I don't want to feel like I'm being used, which is why I don't want to be owned by Qataris or Saudis and that's a generalized statement. So I apologize if there's
but I'm with you. I agree with you. I do.
I don't want to be seen as bought by a soft power. I don't want to feel used, but I also don't want to feel like my owners hold me in contempt.
Right. Which they clearly do. Yeah, you're right. All right. Listen, this has been amazing. Obviously, fantastic show. I am totally wiped out. Today was the first day of school for my boys. They didn't even go to school. They stayed home. But even so, it was a big day at our house. So, Nick, who was on with us earlier from the Ohio State University, thanks for being on, Nick, from Columbus. Sorry you had to drop off. And help me, Cameron. Yes, Cameron in Richmond, who was on with us too. Always good to see Cameron. Glad he was on. We'll do it again soon. Andrew in my friend's, my wife's cousin's hometown of Shreveport, Shreveport, Louisiana. Great to have you on. Thank you. Appreciate it. Casey, always good to talk to you. And our 89th minute substitution, who gets a cap for this show. John, it's good to see you. Friday Night Lights this Friday. Tomorrow night, I think it's Katie and Becky do the highest rated show on the American Hammers Network. I don't remember the name of it. What's it called? Hammer the Point, I think it's called, or Hammer It Out. It was a Hammer the Point. Anyway, it's Katie and Rebecca, so you don't want to miss it. They're really good. And yeah, you guys have been awesome. We'll do this again next week. God help us on Saturday, and come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.